Bonitto Grange here on Transforming Your Relationship on HGG Radio. We're here every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So do join us and click on the subscribe button if you want to hear and know of our upcoming sessions or programs that we'll be having. So today we're talking about emotional fitness in marriage. What is that? What has that got to do with me? I like to start off with Philippians 4:6-7, one of my favorite passages in the Bible that can help me maintain myself a point in true north. It helps me to be more focused and gets me to reflect where I am. And that it says, "What? Be anxious for nothing." Another version says, "Don't worry about anything." But what? But in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. He said, "Let your request be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." So that's a passage that I generally will go back to when I'm feeling anxious, when I'm feeling worried about anything, because I believe anything that presents itself to us, God's got everything under control. We just have to learn to trust Him in our situation, trust Him in the good times, trust Him in the bad time, trust Him when you're in that relationship and things is not just going the way that you may want to go. But I told somebody the other day that rather than fighting with your partner, how about building your relationship first with God? Because right now you're wrestling flesh against flesh. You're fighting against one another. How about trying to get yourself right first with God? Build that relationship before you can build that relationship with anyone else. So that's a passage that I've used to help me be grounded. When my feet touch the ground in the morning, I've got to have some affirmation. I got to know who I am. So I know that when my feet touch the ground in the morning, that we are a target for the enemy. I believe, as many Christians out there, that the enemy is trying to destroy every relationship, every marriage, especially the ones that replicates and that has a likeness to Christ and the church. So being mindful of that, when I step my feet on the ground in the morning, I know that today I'm not going to worry about anything. Yes, it might present itself, but I know that God has got everything under control. Why? Because I trust in Him even when I don't see. I trust in Him even when I don't understand. So back to emotional fitness, it refers to the ability to understand. It involves a coping mechanism to navigate life's challenges, and we've all have life challenges, and we will continue to have life challenges, whether in our relationship, whether at work, wherever we'll always be having life challenges. And so it deals with individuals with high emotional fitness can handle stress, maintain a positive relationship, and make sound decision even in emotionally charged situation. Who wouldn't want to be able to do that? To be able to make sound decision even in emotionally charged situation. I don't know about you, but I've made some bad decision when I was emotionally charged, all because I allowed my emotions to get a hold of me and end up making the right decision and end up suffering the consequences down the road. So building emotional fitness, it includes practice, like definitely like self-awareness, self-regulation, also understanding our emotional triggers. It is said that 90% of people believe that they're self-aware, but according to individuals, that I have had the opportunity to coach or to have conversation with, I've found out that less than 10% they really are not aware. They find out that there's a lot that they don't know, which they thought they knew. One individual, a client said to me, "I thought I was doing everything right because that's what I've seen growing up with friends and family," but only to find out that what he wasn't aware of was he was missing out on fulfilling his wife's need. He was missing out on that emotional part, that emotional connection that is so required in a relationship. And when that was on the all-time low, then communication took a hit, intimacy took a hit, and many other things that followed, which had a domino effect, all because he was not aware emotionally. He was not emotionally fit to deal with certain things or to be aware of certain things. So, like anything else, if we want to be more self aware, you have to know where your emotions are taking you. rather than just going with the flow. Know where your emotions are taking you. Is this where I really want to go today? Is this how I really want to act today? And if you're not emotionally aware, you will go with every wind that blows down your way. And so to know where your emotions taking you, our lives are being directed, I'm told, by our strongest emotions. So if I am more self-aware, I will know how to direct my emotions. I will know how to direct my path. We go to the gym when we are most when we want to feel good, when we want to gain some muscles. Some take yoga to gain more flexibility. But when it comes to being emotional fit, we just expect it to show up. Well, that's a dream that probably will never come true. Being emotionally fit won't just show up. There's some habits that's got to form. There's some things that's got to change. There's some self-awareness that's got to take place. So to be emotionally fit, it also helps in if one is even physically fit. But that's a question I'd like to ask. Just think about it. How can we be more emotionally fit if I'm not physically fit? I would say my physical fitness is important because when I'm more physically fit, I gain more clarity. My head's more clear. I am more aware. I'm more on the ball. But when I'm not physically fit, I believe that has affected my emotions of how I react. So research has shown that if you exercise regularly, it will help to improve your mental health and well-being. Well, who can say anything bad against that? You know yourself that when you begin to exercise regularly in whichever form that you want to use or take, you'll find out that you begin to feel better. Your body begin to function better. You become more chemically balanced, as I would say. So to be emotionally fit, we have to start prioritizing some things. Some things that we spend time on is most likely draining us and depleting what we're trying to maintain. Individuals with a high emotional fitness can handle the things that life throws at them. When you are at a stage of being emotionally fit and being more aware, a few things start to change in your marriage, in your relationship, or in life itself. You will gain, number one, more clarity. Your ability to love will increase. You will maintain a more positive relationship. Your level of toleration is also increased. You can handle situations on the job differently than you normally would have before. Why? Because you're building that emotional fitness that you need to have. You will begin to work together as a team. You can even handle decisions even in an emotionally charged situation. So who wouldn't want more of that rather than just flying off the handle and doing whatever you want to do in the moment, only to find out that you made the wrong decision, and most times you might have to come back and apologize and try to fix the situation. Your level of empathy also will increase when you are more emotionally fit. You will be more in control of your response and your attitude. You will even feel less stress. God's word, I believe, has the remedy to help us in our emotional downturn in life and can bring peace and strength in our life. As Christians, we have to dress right from the time our feet touch the ground, like I previously said. And that is putting on, the Bible talks about us putting on the whole armor of God, that we may be able to stand. So basically, when I begin to put on the whole armor of God, for some that do not know that, I'm starting my day off right. I'm setting myself up for success because I know there's things that I'm going to face that I can't handle by myself. And so, because I want to be emotionally fit spiritually, also, I've got to put on the armor of God. And Ephesians chapter 6 tells us about that. Put on the whole armor of God. Why? That we may be able to stand against the wiles of the enemy. Why? He said, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Proverbs said in 17 and 22 that a joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. When your spirit is crushed, you feel emotionally drained. And we've all had a point within our life when our spirit has been crushed. And is it possible that you did not have that armor on for that day? Is it possible that you just allowed the day to determine how you were going to show up rather than you knowing how you were going to show up? You know, when David was coming back to himself, he said, "Let me hear joy and gladness." That's found in Psalms 51. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones that you have crushed rejoice. David said, what David is basically implying and saying is that I want to be back to the state where I am more emotionally fit. I know I have been crushed. I know my bones feel like they're dried up, but I want restoration by being emotionally fit again. So when he started to change his emotional state, if we don't change our emotional state, you end up staying in a valley of depression. You end up staying in a valley of discouragement. And David began to change his emotional state. And you know what he did? He said there was a time when he didn't even know what to do. So he pulled himself together and he said to himself, I will encourage myself. At all possible, he wasn't waiting for somebody to encourage him. He wasn't waiting for his mother. He wasn't waiting for his father, but he began to encourage himself. And by him doing that, his spirit began to be lifted from that down, depressive, discouragement state that he has. When you feel like you are overwhelmed in your relationship, take a deep breath and quote the word back to your creator. When he said in 2 Corinthians 12 and 9, he said, my grace is all that you need, for my power is the greatest when you are weak. You thought that you could just coast and everything would just work out. Well, guess what? You found out soon enough that your marriage doesn't run on autopilot. It requires effort. And sometimes the conversations may, as you may know, may get uncomfortable, but that's okay. I've always said, in order to be comfortable, you have to get to that stage where you are uncomfortable so you can become comfortable. So life is busy and always will be. So make the time to spend with each other so you can connect emotionally. If you spend most of the time, for an example, with the children, if you spend most of your time on the job, when your wife says you're always so busy, what she is saying that I want to connect with you emotionally. What she's saying is that I miss you and I want to be with you. Sometimes as men, we've got to learn to read between the lines. The relationship would be happier if each recognized one another need, if each was emotionally fit and get to that point where they can really understand and to love one another. In a marriage, when one does not have that emotional fitness mindset, what is missing? There's things now that will be missing. I mean, where does one go to vent or voice their opinion? A young man said to me that I thought I was doing okay. I was providing. I was making sure the bills were paid. He was doing everything that he thought was right, but he was emotionally disconnected. After a session with him and a conversation, he then became more self-aware of what was lacking in his relationship. At the end of the day, he became more emotionally fit than he ever had before. Now, it seems awkward at first, but as you know, change requires effort. Sometimes change requires time where you're more intentional about the change that you're going to make. But what happened is that change can be uncomfortable, like we said. So he began to practice his emotional muscles that he had never practiced before, the muscles that was inactive. Just like physical fitness, your emotional fitness requires practice and resilience to handle challenges. And if you don't practice those muscles, then they are there, but it becomes dormant. And somehow down the road, you have to get help to resurrect what's already there. We already have the help within us. We just need someone to have that conversation, to ask the right question, to make you realize you are more than enough and you have the answers. So when those emotional muscles now were activated towards his wife, he almost had to get the smelling salt to take her up off the floor because she was in awe. She literally was in awe. This was her words. He became more attractive. And for the first time in a long time, she felt a deep connection. that you had never felt. So, what changed? He now had the ability to manage and to navigate his emotions effectively that he never used before. Lack of emotional fitness can lead to lack of intimacy, lack of communication, and it takes a domino effect that other things get involved in there. There's a gap to be filled, and that conversation need to be voiced so your spouse can feel fulfilled. Without being emotionally fit, we open doors to things that we may not be able to handle. We open doors of temptation, which can lead to infidelity, which can lead to emotional affairs. So if you're not emotional fit and not aware of what is taking place and how to respond, you can end up going down a path that you are not willing to know what the consequences are going to be. So having control of your, say for an example, having control of your finance is a form of emotional fitness. You're not just spending, doing whatever, but you are aware. That's what it's all about, is being aware, being able to make intelligent decisions with money rather than being impulsive is another form of emotional fitness. Now, it pays if both of you are on the same page. This may not happen overnight, but together you can both build on your emotional fitness state. There's some things that one have to adjust to. It's not a matter of just changing all of a sudden, but having the mindset of adjusting to different situation by what? By being aware. If you want to increase more love in your relationship, get emotionally fit. So, how do I become more emotionally fit in my relationship? Well, self reflection would be one. Regular reflect on your emotions, understanding their sources and how they impact your behavior. You can start a weekly journal, maybe once a week, twice a week. You begin to reflect on how you reacted to certain situation, what you did negatively, and what you'd like to do better, or what would have made a difference if you had reacted in a more positive way. Open communication. So foster open and honest communication with your spouse, sharing your feelings and your thoughts. And sometimes having that open communication is a challenge because one may have never felt safe before. One may have never felt that given that opportunity where they could actually speak their mind because everything that they said was wrong, or everything that they said they were being criticized. Like one individual said to me, well, I just kept my mouth shut and I just go along with the whatever was being done because every time I opened up my mouth, I was being criticized and my words wasn't of any value. Well, to be emotionally fit, you have to be aware of where you are. Both have to be aware. And so how can I become more emotionally fit in my relationship? Empathy. Develop empathy by active listening and understanding your partner's perspective without judgment. Conflict resolution skills also. Learn and practice effective ways to resolve conflicts, focusing on finding solutions together. Quality time, spend the quality time together to strengthen that connection and that bond. Also a support system. Cultivate a support system, both individually and as a couple, to navigate challenges. Also, individual growth. Encourage personal growth for both partners, allowing space for individual interests and development. One partner might like a certain movie, and the other individual might not have anything to do with that. But again, I've always said it's not about you. It's a we relationship. So you might not like this movie, but if it's going to make my wife feel closer to me, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch that movie. And there's times too when we will alternate. But I've known some that says, you know what, I'm not going to do that because I don't like that, or I'm not going to go here because you can go here, but I'm not going there. No, it's a joint effect. To be emotionally fit, you have to be aware of one another's emotion, be aware of one another's needs, right? Be aware of one of likes and dislike. It's not all about you. Gratitude practice. Regularly express gratitude for each other and the positive aspects of your marriage. We can always look at everything that is going wrong, We can always look at the things that's just not going right. Can always look at the things that is always frustrating us. And that's all we ever talk about. But I believe if we learn to be more appreciative and to offer up more gratitude, it will reduce the negativity in your relationship. The problem might never change, but your mindset, because you're more emotionally fit, your mindset will change toward that ugly situation, toward that messy situation. Because in your mindset, you're thinking that it's not always going to be like this. Adaptability, be flexible and adaptable to change, understanding that growth and challenges are part of the journey. In order to grow, there's got to be some challenge. You cannot grow without any challenges in your life. So appreciate the challenges that come. And when things come against me and that challenge me in my relationship or in life, I have this question that I ask. So what has this situation come to teach me? There's obviously a lesson to be learned here. There's obviously more. I need to be maybe more self-aware to what is happening here. So what can I learn from this situation? Because I can always talk about how bad it is, but I find out that if I change my emotional state and become more emotionally fit and understand what's going on, then my whole world begin to change. My attitude begin to change. My response begin to change. Also, professional help. Consider seeking guidance from a marriage counselor or relations coach or a therapist to enhance emotional fitness and communicate within the marriage. There are just some things that one just need to be more aware of. You can have continuous growth by embracing a mindset of learning and personal development to that will sustain your emotional fitness. Again, I'm going to leave with this scripture again, like we started off with in Philippians 4:6-7. Be anxious for nothing. What is Paul saying? He said, be aware of your emotional state. Be aware of where you're at because God's got everything under control. He always has and he always will. And in order for me to believe that, I've got to trust him, which means now I have to trust the process because somehow I'm going to grow in what is happening right now. But in everything by prayer, prayer has got to be a part of that place where you can get together with God. It's got to be that secret place where you try to commune with God, to have that conversation with God, because I want to be emotionally also connected to the one that has breathed the breath of life inside of me. So, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. And then now he said, let my request. Sometimes, we need to just tell God exactly how we feel. Yes, I'm mad right now, God. Yes, I'm frustrated right now, God. But then you'll bounce back because you're going to find a peace that's going to come over you. Why? Because you're going to bounce back and you're going to encourage yourself just like David did. He recognized where he was and he wasn't willing to stay where he was. So he began to encourage himself in the Lord. He changed his emotional state, which changed his mindset, which changed his attitude. So get emotionally fit. And if you require a little help in building your emotional fitness tank, you can reach out to me at www.tlcbonitogrange.com. I'm your host, your relationship and life coach. We love you guys. We're praying for every marriage on the planet. My thought is to reduce world divorce one conversation at a time. So God bless. Have a wonderful evening day wherever you are. And God is in control, always has and always will be.